Hey there, hope you're having a wonderful day. So in the previous videos, we implemented features for the enemy monsters, such as firing bullets at Mega Man and guarding. So if I save and run the program, you can see we have 3 Mattel enemies, and right now they are guarding, and if I were to fire bullets at them, you can see they do no damage. And that is because we implemented the Mattels to guard if Mega Man is not within 4 tiles away. Now, if Mega Man gets closer, you can see the Mattels start firing bullets. Alright, so that's what we have so far. Now, in many video games, when you defeat a monster enemy, there's a chance that the enemy will drop an item, and the item could be a healing item. So this is what we'll be implementing in this video. Alright, so the images that we'll be using for this video are the big life energy and the regular size life energy. And there are 2 other items. One is the 1-up item, and we have the score ball, which increases the game score for the player. Now, we haven't implemented the concept of score and game over for our game, so we're just going to leave these 2 items alone, and we'll just focus on the healing items. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is load the images, and to do so, we need to specify some variables for the width and height. So over here, let's specify the width and height of the life energy and the big life energy. So the width is going to be 20, and the height is going to be 24. And for the big life energy, we'll have 28 for the width, and for the height, we'll have 32. Now, when the monster enemies drop the item, we're going to have the item go up and then back down. So this means that we're going to apply a velocity y for the items. And here I'm just going to make it -11. So the idea here is when we create the item object, the item is going to have a velocity y of -11. Now remember, if velocity y is negative, it is going towards 0. It is going up. And gravity is positive. So the item is going to have a negative velocity y, so it's going to first go up, and then eventually it'll go back down. So it's going to create a bouncing effect on the item when the Mattel enemy drops the item. Alright, so we have the width and height, and now let's load the images. And if you're wondering where the numbers are coming from, basically I'm taking the size and scaling it down by 5. So I'm dividing everything by 5. Alright, so we're going to load these 2 images. The first one is called lifeenergy.png, and the second one is biglifeenergy.png. Okay? Alright, so let's go down, and over here, we're going to load the images. So life energy image is going to be load image, life-energy.png, and the width and height is going to be life energy width and life energy height. And I'm going to just copy and paste this and change this to big life energy image, and the image name is big-life-energy.png, and the width and height is going to be big_life-energy-width and big_life-energy-height. So we have the images loaded, and now we need to create the items using these images. So like with the bullets and the Mattel enemies, we can have multiple items. Therefore, we're going to store all the item objects inside a list. So let's scroll down, and over here, I'm going to create an items list. So items is going to be an empty list. And of course, just like with the Mattel, the tiles, we need to create a class to represent the items. So I'm going to scroll back up, and basically, I'm going to use this class, the tile class, as an example for the item. So there's not much to do with the item. The item is not going to fire bullets or anything. It's just a very simple rectangle object. So what I can do is just copy and paste this And I'm going to change the name of this class to item. And we're going to modify this because when we create the rectangle, we specify an X and Y position and the width and height. Now the width and height varies depending on the item. So here I'm going to take the image and do get underscore width for the width. And for the height, it's going to be image.get underscore height. Now one more thing. Remember, we added a velocity y so that the item can go up and then down. So I'm going to assign this item a velocity y. So this is going to be item underscore velocity y. Alright, so we have this item class. Now we need to create some instances of the item. So we need to create a function that will drop the item. And for the item, we can have the regular size or small life energy healing item, or we can have the big life energy. And we are going to assign which one to drop based on a random chance. And so to create the random chance, we're going to import the random module. So let's scroll all the way up. And over here, I'm going to add import random. So we're going to use this module to get a random number. And depending on the number, we're going to decide which item to be dropped. So let's scroll all the way down to where our functions are. And I'm going to place it right above this move function. So here I'll do drop underscore item. And we're going to pass in a character. And the reason why I'm calling it character is because I've been using character for these other functions. So here I'll do character. And the first thing we're going to do is get a random number. So random number is random.randint 1 to 100. And this 100 is inclusive. So this means that instead of 1 to 99, it is actually 1 to 100. So we're going to have a random integer between 1 and 100. If the number is between 0 and 20, so this is greater than 0 actually, so it's between 1 and 20, then we're going to assign it the big life energy. So here I'm going to do items.append. We're going to create an item object, and we need to pass in an X and Y position. So it's going to be the character's X and Y position. And we need to pass in an image. So big life energy image. So there's a 20% chance that the enemy will drop a big life energy. Elif, the random number is between 20, or actually 21, and 50. Then we're going to take this and paste it here and change this to the regular size life energy. So if the number is between 20 and 50, that means we have a 30% chance of getting the life energy, which means that in total we have a 50% chance of getting an item. Alright, so we have this drop item function, and now we need to call this function. So we're going to call this function in the move function, because in this move function, we check to see if the bullets destroy Metal. So let's scroll down, and here we have a for loop checking to see all the bullets in player.bullets. If the Metal is not guarding, we deduct 1 from Metal health. And because Metal only has 1 health, this would destroy the Metal. Now, of course, you can change the logic to make Metal health be more than 1. For that reason, I'm going to make a check within this if condition. If Metal.health is less than or equal to 0, we're going to call drop item, and we're going to pass in Metal. So just checking to see if the Metal health is less than or equal to 0 to determine whether the Metal is alive or not. Alright, so once we call drop item and there's a chance to add the item to the items list, we need to move the item. So we need to apply velocity y to the item so that the item can move up and down, and then we need to apply gravity to the velocity y. So I'm going to scroll all the way down over here and just add for item in items, item.velocity underscore y, we're going to add gravity. And then we're going to do item.y plus equal item.velocity y. So this is going to move the item up and down in the y direction. And then finally, we need to draw the items. So this part is very simple. We'll just do for item in items, window.blit, item.image, and item. Alright, so let's save and run the program. And we have 3 metals, so there's a 50% chance that the metals will drop an item. Alright, so we have the metals guarding, and I'm just going to come close and try to destroy them. Alright, we have an item. We have another item. Okay, so you saw before we had 2 items jump up and then fall down. And the reason why these items fell through the ground is because we did not have these items checked for collision with the tiles. So let's go ahead and implement that. So let's go back up to the move function, and over here, I'm just going to call check tile collision Y on the item. Now, if I save and run the code, we're going to get an error. And that is because within our check tile collision Y function, we have a field that we're checking for. So let's scroll up, and you can see in our check tile collision Y, we have this jumping field. Now the item technically is jumping when it goes up, but because there's no key press that could make the item jump back up, we're going to always set the jumping field to false for the item. So over here, I'm just going to add another field called jumping, and I'll put it up here. So self.jumping, and we'll set this to false. And we're just adding it so that we can avoid getting an error because it would expect this item object to have this field jumping. Alright, let's save and run the program. Alright, so we have these 3 metals, and I'm going to fire bullets. We have 1 item, no items there, no item. Okay, but before you saw the item jumped up and then it went back down. And then this item collided with this tile, so now this item's resting here. So we now have the item. Now we need to implement collision detection with Mega Man and the item, because when Mega Man touches the item, he is going to collect the item and use it. So right now, this item is not doing anything. So just like with the bullets, the item will be used. So here I'm going to add another field, used, and set it to false. And basically, just like with the bullets, after the item is used, we need to do a cleanup to remove the item from the items list. So I'm going to scroll down to our move function, and over here, we're going to check for collision. So if player.collideRect item, we're going to set item.used to be true. And then we need to apply the item to the player. So I'm just going to make a check to determine which item the player collided with. And the best way to do this is to just use the image. So I can do if item.image is equal to life energy image, player.health is going to recover, and we don't want to recover past the max health of the player. So here I'll just do the min of player.health plus 2 or player.max health. So we're going to take the minimum of the 2 so that adding 2 to the player health will not go past the max health. Elif item.image is equal to big life energy image. We're going to do player.health is equal to min of player.health. And since this is a bigger life energy, we're going to add 8. Now, as I mentioned before, we need to do the cleanup just like we did with the bullets. So I can just do items is equal to item for item in items if not item.used. Alright, so this is pretty simple. Now let's save and run the program. And you can see we have an error. And this error happens because we are reassigning items using the list comprehension. So over here, we are reassigning items. But because we are doing an assignment to this variable, it looks like this items variable is a local variable created only within the function. So we need to declare this as a global variable. And we can do so up here, where we also declared metals as a global variable. So we're going to add items. And now let's save and run the program. Alright, so we have a big life energy and a small life energy. So we're going to collide with the big life energy. And you can see we recovered a lot of health points. And then let's collide with the small life energy. And we recovered 2 more health points. Okay, so now we have items fully functional in our game. So the metal enemies have a chance to drop items and Mega Man can collect those items and recover health. Alright, so that's it for this video. Now in the next video, we're going to go over traps or hazards. In the Mega Man games, we have these spikes. So if Mega Man touches the spikes, we automatically get game over. So in the next video, we're going to add these spikes to our game. So that's pretty much it for this video. Hopefully you found this video helpful. And if you did, make sure you give this video a like. If you have any questions, let me know down below in the comments. And as always, if you want to stay up to date for more Python game programming tutorials like this one, make sure you subscribe to the channel. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.